With Thanksgiving coming up, obviously thankfulness is really on a lot of people's minds. Maybe not always, maybe not everyone, but this holiday coming up, it's normal to think about that and see posts and different things talking about that. And one thing I want to mention is that we often think of thankfulness as being thankful for the blessings that we do have, things that we have, family, people in our lives, things like that. But another thing to be thankful for is to be thankful for the things the Lord has protected us from. I think especially now with everything going on in the world, there's a lot of stuff going on. And, because sometimes, a lot of us, we are blessed. We are very blessed. We have a lot of things that a lot of other people don't have. And it's good to acknowledge that, and it's good to be thankful for that and really realize how blessed we are and, just the blessings that we have. And one of those blessings is that there are things that God has protected us from. Sometimes it could be a bad relationship. It could be a situation. Maybe you didn't get a job that you applied for, but maybe the reason you didn't get it is because God knew that getting that job would have been bad. Maybe it would have been a bad situation, bad work environment. So there's all these things that God has protected us from that we may not even be aware of. And we should just be thankful. Be thankful that God protected us from those things. Recognize the blessings that we have, and then share those blessings with others if we're able to. Encourage others, help others, and there's always something to be thankful for. And I think it's just good to remember that. One big thing you'll notice in apologetics is that they test worldviews. So, for example, the Islamic worldview, Christian worldview, even the Mormon worldview, Catholic worldview, all these different kinds of worldviews out there. Not all of them are quote-unquote religious, but, they're just different worldviews. And, which is fine, it's good. It's good to test worldviews. And the best way to test a worldview is to test the core beliefs of that worldview. So, for example, if you use, Mormonism, for example, you test the core beliefs of Mormonism to see if the Mormonism worldview is true. The problem with that, though, is that oftentimes people will sort of lump all of the beliefs of the worldview together. So if the core beliefs are false, they're going to, assume that all the other beliefs are false as well. And this is not always true. For example, Mormonism. Let's say that Mormonism was false. Let's say you tested the core beliefs and you found out Mormonism was false. Well, there could be 100, beliefs in that worldview of Mormonism. So maybe 5 of those beliefs are core beliefs. You test those, they're false. But there's 95 other beliefs out there in that worldview. So you can't just assume that all those other beliefs are false. You have to test each one separately. For example, Mormons believe in that, the universe was created, so they believe in a creator, God, a being. They believe in the supernatural realm. So you can't just assume those things are false just because Mormonism itself is false. You'd have to look at those beliefs individually. And this is where I feel like a lot of people in apologetics and people who are just, searching for truth kind of make the mistake is that they'll test a worldview by going by the core beliefs, but they tend to throw out all the other beliefs without testing them or looking into them. Kind of like they throw the whole thing out as a whole instead of looking at each individual belief. Obviously, it takes a lot more time to look at each individual belief of a worldview, especially if they have a lot of beliefs, depending on what the worldview is. But I think that if you're really seeking truth, and if you really want to know what's true, it's really better to take the time to, test the core beliefs, but then test the other beliefs and say, okay, is this belief true? And also remember that not all beliefs, even though, for example, theism, Mormons are, they believe in theism, but don't associate a belief. This is hard to do, but you kind of have to separate the belief from the worldview. You have to kind of remove that association. So, if you're a former, if you were Mormon and then you left Mormonism, and, you might be inclined to leave theism because, you're associating that with Mormonism, which you left. But you have to, separate that association and kind of look at each belief on its own, and, test each belief on its own. And like I said, it does take more time, but if you're really seeking truth, this is the better way to go about that. I hope everything I just said made sense. By the way, I'm not bashing on Mormonism. I was just using that as just a generic example. But yeah, I hope it all at least is clear and that it all makes sense. there's this book I've been reading called Starfish and the Spirit, The Starfish and the Spirit. And this is actually the second time I've read it, and I really highly recommend it. It's actually kind of more for like leaders of churches or organizations or businesses, things like that. People kind of more in those leadership positions. And it's really about a different way of managing and running a church, organization, business, etc. And what's interesting about it is that they have, actual examples of people doing this. One of them is Morningstar, which is a company. They produce like tomato paste. If you ever had like tomato products, and you probably have had, their products. And what's interesting is that they don't really have a quote unquote boss or really leadership. Everything is kind of like level playing field. There's really not a hierarchy. And everything's very open. What we would consider like, the employees like lower down on the ladder. There is no like lower or higher employees. But everyone gets a voice. Everyone gets to share their opinion. And that's really kind of what this book is talking about. How, instead of having, this pyramid structure of leadership where you have the, top guy or top woman at the top who's kind of running everything, and then everyone below her is like, lesser in some way. Instead, it's more kind of like a round table type of leadership where we're all in the same, it's a level playing field. We're all on the same page here, and you're able to talk to the boss and give critique, and the boss can talk to you, and you can talk to other employees. Everything's very open. It's really, really good. And the thing I like about it is that, again, there's real world examples. The guys who have written this have done it, have implemented this practice for years in churches, organizations, businesses, and it's just a very fresh, healthy, new way of doing things where there's the pressure's gone. Everyone actually has a voice. There's no one is considered like lesser than or better than or anything like that. Everyone's kind of equal. And it's all run in an organized way where everyone still has a voice and can still, use their gifts and their talents, and doesn't have to be micromanaged and everything. Instead, they can self-manage. So anyway, long story short, it's a really good book. I really recommend it if you're interested in the topic. That is The Starfish and the Spirit. Again, really, really good book, and I highly recommend it. It's a very good topic too. I have this little book here, and it literally is a little book. It's tiny, tiny little thing. But it's called Animals of the World, A Guide to More Than 300 Mammals. And I was just kind of flipping through it, and one of the ones that it has is bottlenose dolphins. And there's a section in here where it says that they are very sociable and playful by nature. They are often encountered riding the bow wave of boats, riding surf, and can be seen jumping clear of the water. And this reminds me of when we would go down to Florida. We had a boat, and we would take the boat out, and like if you were sitting kind of like near the edge of the boat, in the boat, you'd look over the side and you'd see dolphins like swimming right next to the boat, and sometimes they would jump out, and that was just so cool to see them like right in the water, like out in the wild like that. I don't know, it's just neat when like you can go to places and you can see these animals. They can go to zoos, or you can go to like wildlife places, but to actually see them in the wild, it's totally different, and it's really, really cool. And I don't know, I just want to share that because I just think it's kind of cool. And also this book is like just so, I don't know if you could, I think it's an older book, so I don't know if you can find it. I actually got it at it was actually a library sale. The library was selling their books, and I got it for like less than $1. But any books like this where they just have like different random information about animals or wildlife, honestly, these are like some of my favorite books. So I just think it's all really, really cool stuff. Share the truth in love. It is not your job to convince people of what is true. You just have to share the truth. Don't compromise on the truth. You should never compromise on truth. We should always stand up for what's true and, not back down. So don't compromise on truth, but don't force it on others as well. We can easily start to force truth on others by continually giving evidence and arguing and giving proofs that it's true. Don't worry about any of that stuff. You can give evidence and all that stuff, but don't try to force it. Share the truth in love. Be patient with the person. Listen. Answer any questions they have. Ask questions, that like poignant questions that'll really get them to think about these things. But ultimately, just share the truth in love, listen to them, and whatever they choose to do with that information, that's their decision. You don't have to worry about that. Just let them do what they're going to do. Not everyone rejects truth because they don't like it. Sometimes it's for emotional or personal reasons. So be patient, be loving, be kind, have good conversations, talk to people. It's all really good. And I hope that this is encouraging and helpful for all of you. Thank you for joining us today. If you would like more information on the Woolpack and ways you can be involved, then please visit our website, and we'll see you next time.